types of most common fraud schemes available, that are Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes. Now, people who are not aware of these schemes often come into the trap of them. Now, Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes share some similarities, but they also have some key differences. What are Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes? Who is Charles Ponzi and what is his relation with the Ponzi scheme? What is multi-level marketing? What is the relation of multi-level marketing with pyramid schemes? Who did the most famous Ponzi scheme ever, worth $65 billion? There are so many questions relating to both Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes, and you will get all the answers in this video. Now let's come to the topic. Now the first question that was asked was that who is Charles Ponzi and what is his relation with the Ponzi scheme? So now Charles Ponzi was an Italian con artist, an Italian businessman, shall I say, who was known for notoriously running one of the most famous scams in history, which is now called the Ponzi scheme. So what he did was that he lured investors in with high returns and high promises, but what he did was that he used the money that he got from the new investors to pay the earlier investors, while keeping a significant portion for himself. Ponzi's scheme eventually collapsed, leading to huge losses and Charles Ponzi's arrest and imprisonment. So let's see how he trapped some of his investors through this picture, and he ran this fraudulent investment scheme in the early 20th century. Charles Ponzi promised typically 50% in 45 days and 100% in 90 days. Now he used the money he got from the new investors to pay back the earlier investors, and at that time the Ponzi scheme was applied to only international postal reply coupons, but soon spread to other investments. Now you will ask me, what are international postal reply coupons? Well, let me explain to you with an example. Let's say you live in the USA and you are traveling to Europe. Now from Europe, you can send letters back to your family in USA using the International Postal Reply Coupon. And if you are a European traveling to the US, then you can send letters back to your family in Europe by using the International Postal Reply Coupon. Now, Charles Ponzi found arbitrage in this International Postal Reply Coupon and therefore did the Ponzi scheme on it. The Ponzi scheme attracted a lot of attention and a lot of investors. However, the scheme collapsed when it became clear that not enough money was coming from the new investors to pay back the earlier investors. Now, Charles Ponzi got arrested and served in imprisonment, but there were huge losses of many investors. This scheme since then has been known as the Ponzi scheme and has been used to describe similar fraudulent schemes. Now what happens is that many people lose billions and thousands of dollars every day in Ponzi schemes. So now Ponzi schemes are illegal almost everywhere and is considered as one type of financial fraud. Now, if you want to get more videos to grab your attention and remind you to beware of such circumstances, then remember to like this video, subscribe my channel and share my videos to your friends and your family so that they also can benefit from this content. So now let's talk about pyramid scheme. Now in pyramid scheme, it is a type of business model that depends on recruiting new members to generate a profit. In this type of structure, there's a founder. Like you can see in the picture, there's one person at the top who is a founder, and he creates a second layer of people who in turn create a third layer to generate a profit, and so on. So each layer has to create another layer for earning a little bit of profit. This is how the scheme works. Then what happens is that before joining, you need to buy a product, pay a fee, or do any kind of investment. So if you see any company and you doubt its legality because it's doing such stuff, you can seek the help of a financial advisor or a legal expert. Pyramid schemes often make high attractive offers, but in reality, their profits are generally based on recruiting more members than the sale of any legitimate product. So now the scheme eventually collapses when there are no longer enough people to create another layer. So now pyramid schemes are considered as frauds in many countries and across the whole nations, but I think they should be in all rather than many. But they're still in many only, so what can I do to change that? So anyways, where was I? Yes. So this scheme is illegal in many places and many countries. And some examples are multi-level marketing businesses or gift circles, etc. Now what happens is that the investors should be wary about any opportunity that seems too good to be true and have the right to question that. So first let's talk about structure as in the key differences between the two. Now Ponzi scheme, what happens is that there's the operator, the main person who lures all the investors in, and then all the investors join him. Okay, now what happens is that in pyramid scheme it's not like that. First the founder, he will recruit another layer, but the other layer, like the third layer, will not be recruited by the founder. It will be recruited by the second layer, and the third layer will recruit a fourth layer the fifth, and so on. But the profit mechanism is also different. Now in Ponzi schemes, what happens is that all the investors pool their money in and it all goes to the operator. But that's not the way it works in pyramid scheme. What happens is that a part of every profit goes to the founder, leaving a teensy peensy bit for each layer. But that's a little bit of too little teensy weensy bit. So this is how they differ in the structure and profit mechanism. Now let's jump to the next parameter. Next is product or service. Now what happens in Ponzi scheme? There is no such product or service. It is just pure returns that lure investors in. But it's not like that in the pyramid scheme. In the pyramid scheme, there is a good or a service, but the profit is not generated by the goods or service that has seemed attractive to the investors. The profit is rather based on recruiting more members. Now there's another parameter, which is duration. Now in duration, what happens is that Ponzi schemes are short-lived, but pyramid schemes can survive a little longer. Why? Well, what happens is that in Ponzi scheme, you need a continuous influx of investors to pay the earlier investors. And so, the scheme collapses when there are no longer new investors and the pool of investors dry up. But it's not like that in the pyramid scheme. In the pyramid scheme, you need continuous recruitment of new members to generate a profit. So even if the recruitment will stop, then the profit will stop, but this recruitment can be continued once again. So that's why Ponzi scheme is short-lived while pyramid schemes can sustain a little longer. Last is legality. Now both Ponzi scheme and pyramid scheme are illegal, but both depend, like their legality depends on the specifics of the situation. So what happens is that in summary we can say both Ponzi scheme and pyramid scheme are fraudulent investment schemes, but they differ in couple of parameters like the duration, the product or service, legality, etc. Now, both Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes are illegal, but both share a similarity that both have a relation with multi-level marketing businesses, which, although help pyramid and Ponzi schemes, are completely legal. Now, what happens is that everyone thinks that all multi-level marketing businesses are illegal, but no. The thing is that only a few multi-level marketing businesses or MLMs are, pyramid schemes, and the legal status of a company depends on various factors. But if you question the legality of any company, then you may check with a financial advisor or legal expert. Now let's talk about the most famous Ponzi scheme worth $65 billion. Oh my god, I can make an investment in that much money. But anyways, yes, let us talk about the multi-billion dollar fraud that was done by Bernie Madoff. Now, Bernie Madoff was an American financier. Now, what he did was that he had started one of the biggest scams in history. I think it should be the biggest scam in history. So he started one of the biggest scams in history, defrauding thousands of people and billions of dollars. Now, his firm, which did all these scams, was exposed in 2008, and he was arrested and sentenced into 150 years in jail. But of course, that was beyond his lifetime. Bernie Madoff ran a massive investment scam that began in the 1990s but ran for decades. Now, this scheme attracted a lot of attention and was based on a split strike conversion strategy. Now, what happened was that, like every other Ponzi scheme, Bernie Madoff used the money that he got from the new investors to pay back the earlier investors. And this scheme attracted a lot of attention and a lot of investors, including wealthy individuals and financial institutions. Now, why did investors trust Mr. Madoff? Well, Bernie Madoff owned an investment firm named Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities. And that time, investors put their trust in Madoff because he created a front of respectability. His returns were high but not outlandish, and he claimed to use a legitimate strategy. And even the government relied on him so much, making him the chairman of NASDAQ, which is one of the greatest stock indexes of all time. However, the scheme eventually collapsed in 2008 in the financial crisis when investors began demanding their money back. Now, this scheme was approximately worth $65 billion. And now Mr. Madoff, was convicted of multiple counts of frauds, and therefore he was sentenced into 150 years in prison. The Madoff scandal was one of the greatest financial scams in history and had far-reaching consequences for individuals, investors, financial institutions, etc. Now, this scandal actually raised questions about the transparency and the need for accountability for the financial industry. The Madoff scandal is now a cautionary tale for investors and is like a reminder for them to be wary of investment opportunities that seem too good to be true. Now, don't consider this episode as just another topic, because this is a very important one. You see, I'm talking about these big scams, but there are thousands of scams surrounding you. So beware of such scams. So thank you for tuning into my channel, Mini Money Mastermind with Mahira. I hope you found the information helpful in your journey to financial success. Don't forget to hit the like button and share my videos with your friends and your family so that they also can benefit from my content. I appreciate your support and can't wait to continue bringing you more informative and actionable finance related content. Until next time, happy money management. But before I go, let me tell you the quote of the day. Well, the first quote is like cautionary quote from today's episode. It is said by Bill Gates. It is fine to celebrate success, but it is more important to heed the lessons of failure. And then there's a second cue today. Accept what is, let go of what was, and have faith in what will be. God knows what He's doing. Thanks and goodbye.